Welcome to Build. I'm Laura Haywood. When The Band's Visit opened last season, an intimate musical based on a small film about an Egyptian military band mistakenly arriving in a tiny Israeli town, it was unlike anything Broadway had ever seen. It's since become one of the most celebrated musicals of all time, winning 10 Tony Awards, and now welcomes several new cast members who are here with me today. Sasson Gabay, who starred in the film The Band's Visit, reprises his role as Tufik, the band's leader. Samir Shukry, a career musician who is hugely famous in Israel, makes his acting debut, and two-time Tony Award nominee Brandon Uranowitz rounds out the stellar cast. Please join me in welcoming Samir, Sasson, and Brandon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, hi, hi.
It must be quite an experience joining an existing cast of a hugely celebrated show. For some of you, you've been in huge Broadway hits before. For others, you're making your Broadway debut. Can you each tell us a little bit about your experience finding your way to The Band's Visit? Samir, you want to start?
Yes, it's a new world for me. Broadway is a new world for me, even though I was in a lot of stages and all over the world. And this is a different kind of stage, the Broadway. And it's so exciting. It's different because you have to be perfect. You know, Broadway is perfection.
There's no improvisation on this stage.
No. So,
Brandon?
No. There's no improvisation.
If you improvise something, you change something, you get a mail from the stage manager.
Yeah, you don't want
But it's live theater. It lives and breathes, and
Sure.
it changes in minute sort of ways every night. But no, the bones of the show are always the same. So
how many instruments do you play in the show?
I play two instruments. I play the violin and the oud,
Right.
sing, and act.
Of course, yeah. And how many instruments do you play in real life, off stage?
4.5.
What's the half?
They have a little bit of piano.
Okay, great. Samir was telling me backstage that he used to play in clubs right around here, and like John Lennon would be in the audience, and he's a real, like, super successful musician. How did you find out about The Band's Visit, or how did they find you and bring you in to audition?
Well, I heard that the violin player is leaving, and just. A friend of mine, he's in the show. His name is Osama. He's the percussionist.
Yeah, he's so good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And he mentioned to me, he called me, he said, listen, he gave them my name. They called me, they sent me an email, and they said, would like you to audition. I said, my pleasure. So I went and I auditioned, and I waited until they told me that you got accepted.
You got that call early in the morning, right?
They woke me up. And it's like winning in the lottery, you know? They woke me up and said, congratulations, you got the job. I said, what job? I forgot. Said, you are Kamal. You know, my name is Kamal in the show. And you got accepted for The Band's Visit. I said, oh, thank God, thank you.
Can you tell us what time was it when they woke you up? What time was it?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
This is my midnight.
Okay.
Now, Sasson, your experience is a little bit different. You were involved in The Band's Visit way longer than any of us had even heard of it.
Yeah.
This film was indie. It was small. Most of it's not in English. And you were the star of it.
Yeah.
And now here you are, years later, reprising your role. Did you just go in for a film audition? Was that how that role was originally cast?
Well, it was back to 2007. Eran Collier met me, and we met at a coffee. And he gave me first a piece of paper with a small synopsis about the film and about the characters, 2-3 lines. And we met for a coffee with the casting director. And it was in Tel Aviv, nearby in the university nearby where I'm living. And I told him, Eran, do me a favor, stop looking for an actor because I know this man and I'm the man you are looking for. And he say, okay, I believe you, but let's make an audition, etc. And I was so decisive and so certain that I know the character, even though I had very little information about him, that it impressed Eran. And after 2-3 hours, I received a phone call. They tell me, okay, let's start looking for your partners, and not lose time and energy for looking for you. And I was really thrilled about it because I liked so much the idea. And then when I saw the script, it became even more. And then it was really a small film, a small budget film. We shot it in almost 20 days in Yerucham, which is a small town similar to Bet Tikva that we're portraying in the
South of Israel.
In the show, it's very remote, small town, and with wonderful people, wonderful warm people. And at the time, I was performing in the theater during the night, so I used to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, get into the cab, drive. They drove me for 2-3 hours, and then we shot till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then back. And that was my schedule for 18 days. And I don't know if it's a recipe for success, but that's what happened.
Well, here you are working on the Broadway musical version of this, 11 years later. So it sounds like a recipe for success to me.
Yeah, well, I'm some 7 years ago, Oren Wolf, the producer of the show, came to Tel Aviv and he wanted to talk to me about it, and he told me about the possibility to make a show out of it. And I say, it sounds to me a very crazy idea, but for sure I say, yeah, gladly I'll do it. It's a wonderful idea, even though I didn't thought so. And after some 7 years, I heard that they performed it with Tony Shalhoub doing the lead in Atlantic Theater, and then they moved to Broadway. I was very happy to hear all the news. A little bit jealous about that it's not me. Mm-hmm. But after a while, after they ran in the Atlantic, they came for a visit, all the cast.
The cast visit?
The cast visit. They came to Israel. They got familiar with the town where we shot. And they make a dinner, and Oren told me that there is a possibility that Tony will go for a TV series if I'm interested. Again, I said, for sure, wonderful idea, but I didn't believe it was going to happen. And after a few months, sure enough, he called me back. He called me again. He told me it's realistic, it's relevant. Would you do it? Well, and then when you get to offer, all the trouble starts, because I have to find a substitute for me in my show in Israel, in Tel Aviv.
Oh, you had a show going on in Israel that you had to leave?
A running show, yes, and which was based on a TV series that I've done. So it was very difficult to find a substitute for me, but eventually it's all turned up to be okay, and I joined the cast in June. Yeah.
Wow, what a story!
Yeah, it's only part of it.
And Brandon, you had a more traditional path to this show, right? I assume. I actually don't know, and I don't want to make up a story for you. Tell us how.
What do you assume as a traditional path?
I assume that your agent called and said, "There's an opening in this Broadway musical." You went in and read for it, and then they were like, "You're in."
Sort of. I didn't go in and read. They just sort of called me and said
straight to the offer.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds much fancier than it is. Actually, it's actually quite terrifying.
How so?
When they call you and they said, John's leaving. Would you be interested in taking over for Itzik? And I said, yes. I love this show so much. But no, because it sounds fancy because you think you're a big shot, but really, you usually use your audition as sort of like a validation for the work that you've put in, and you you meet on the same page in the audition room, hopefully, and then you get the job. In this case, we all sort of went in blind, and I'm already neurotic as it is, but I like came in thinking, well, what if they made a huge mistake? No one knows what I'm gonna be in this role, and it was sort of it was an interesting, scary process at the beginning, especially when I was learning the show, just kind of trying to learn all of the dots and trying to connect the dots and putting one foot in front of the other and learning the show and just the minutia of the show. And it was hard for me at the beginning to just like separate the character from the original actor, John Cariani. It was hard for me to separate them, and I had sort of put layers of John onto my own interpretation for safety, just to get through the show and not ruin anyone else's show. And I didn't want to, the storyline between Itzik and Iris, who play, Kristen C, who plays my wife. It's a very delicate, specific relationship within the show, and I didn't want to step on her toes, and so there was a lot of stuff that I had put on just for safety, and now it's sort of only now about a month later that I feel like I've really made it my own and peeled away those layers and like grown into the part myself.
Yeah.
I hope. Oh God.
Well, I was there 2 nights ago, and you're nailing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you all are. So Sasson, you were there for a few months before these two came in, and Samir and Brandon, you started on the same day. Yeah. Does that bond you in a way because you sort of came in together and?
I think so. Yeah, we both. It was nice to have like a compatriot
on
the first day with an audience, just someone that I could connect to with all of my nerves and crazy.
It gives you a little bit the power when you have somebody's same day starting. It's like, oh, okay, both of us. It's like,
Yeah, and like if something goes wrong, then it's like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was
blame that guy.
Samir.
I feel like
same anxiety.
I feel like you both came in with different areas of expertise, because Brandon, you're a Broadway, alum. You've done a bunch of Broadway shows, and Samir, you have a background in this Israeli culture. You lived in Israel for a long time, and maybe that gave you each sort of some background to guide each other. I'm making up stories and imagining.
One thing I want to say that we went through the same thing. In the beginning, it's like. Everything is like, wow, I'm gonna do that. There's a lot of stuff to do, to learn. As I said in the beginning, it's perfection. So it's like you are confused. I'm gonna do that. Like at home, I went home and I put the music and the notes. I closed the door. I said, my wife, don't talk to me. That's it. I'm gonna be in the room. I'm gonna practice for hours, and nobody opens that door. And that's what I did. It's like, if you want to do something, you can do it.
Yeah.
In Hebrew, there's a saying, Herzl, he said that, Im tirtzu enzu agada. That means if you intention to do something, it's not a dream. You could do it. So this is for everybody.
Can you say it one more time?
Im tirtzu enzu agada.
I'm going to have you teach it to me backstage when I have more time to practice it. But I love that idea. Like when you set your mind to something.
So at the end, the puzzle is completed. For me and him, same thing. The puzzle is completed, and now we feel good.
I think it's the same with our profession. I mean, you need the urge, and you need to believe that you will do it wonderfully, that you are the best person to do it. Otherwise, I think because we need a lot of courage and belief and dive into the water and to do things that sometimes we haven't imagined we'll do. And so I think it's a typical approach in our profession.
I've heard that there are people coming to the stage door who tell you they've seen the show 20, 30 times.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, I think, people of Middle Eastern descent and Israeli descent who are seeing themselves and their cultures represented on stage for the first time. Can you talk about the importance of representing these cultures?
I think first of all, I think it's innovation, it's novelty to see in Broadway a story about Israel and Egypt, about the Middle East at all. I think most of the people that Israelis or people from the Middle East very surprised to see themselves all of a sudden in a Broadway show. It's quite a remote idea, and it's a remote culture, which is so not typical to Broadway. So first of all, to portray this, to give this story about these people, it's a novelty, and it's something very new. It's a new face. It's a new melodies, a new song, a new languages that never been heard, I think, to my best knowledge, in Broadway. So I think it's open also opportunities for later productions that deal with ethnic groups, minorities, other people that usually don't have the chance to be seen on Broadway. And yeah, that's it.
And I think there's a greater message in the show too that I think is speaking to a lot of people, especially younger people, besides just seeing themselves on stage. There's just there's so much division right now in our country and in our world. I think seeing two cultures connect on a deep level is sort of like a balm for our country right now too. Just seeing that connection and celebrating connection as opposed to division is a nice respite for people right now, and I think it's really speaking to them and bringing them to the theater over and over and over again just to get away.
As an Israeli, I must say that usually the Mediterranean, our region, always connected and associated with war and blood, which exists unfortunately, and we all said about it. And this is a chance for people outside the Middle East to see another face, another face of the Mediterranean, of people. And I think this show and this film emphasize the fact that we are all alike, even though we are from different cultures, from different backgrounds. Sometimes we were enemies as in the countries, but we are so much alike, and all of us need the caress, the love, the understanding. I think everybody would agree with that, and your smile is.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, and I love the way that you.
Yeah, I'm poetic, you know.
That's
you
what
are.
I want.
This hour of time.
I wanted to add, exactly about Brandon when he said it's a big message. It's a bombastic show, really. It's a big message for the whole world, just to reach out and help and understand each other and get away from racism and the prejudice. And this world has to be connected together with love and understanding. And you know what? I'm so happy that when I go outside and sign, autograph for people, I see a lot of young people, and makes me very happy. I mean, it makes me happy to see all ages,
Sure.
but to see young people, it's great. Yeah. From all over the countries, from Japan and from all over the United States and Israel, and it's great. It's great
You
feeling.
can see it. Sorry, you can see it on stage. I mean, if you see the characters, the actors. Some of them Arabs, some of them Israelis, some of them from India or Pakistan, American descent, from Europe. So the mixture is I mean, amazing.
Big happy family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
That's why
is.
I think the image on the playbill, you should throw it up, I think is so unbelievably powerful.
Yeah.
That just these two, especially after seeing the show, of just seeing this connection and trying to reach each other and reaching out and holding each other. I just love that so much.
Yeah.
It's divine, huh? It's like Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, it is. It totally
Yes.
is like that Sistine Chapel ceiling. But the idea of reaching across a great divide, which isn't really that great at all. I mean,
No,
there is so much that you can give to another person in a meal of bread and soup, in a slice of watermelon, in a place to sleep for the night. And I think we sometimes think about grand gestures on a global scale because when we think about war and, poverty and famine and, all these things, but when a human and a human look each other in the eye, you can't think on that massive scale. You'd think about reaching out and touching someone.
And that's why I think the storytelling, specifically David Cromer's work, Idamar's work, Yazbek's work, is so unique and beautiful because it takes those little tiny little moments, those little moments of connection, and threads them together in this like sort of ethereal 90-minute dream. And it doesn't seem like a whole lot is going on because, like you said, we're so used to these giant, massive, grand gestures, but it's in those little human connections that by the very end, all of us on stage are changed and everybody else in the room with us, the 1,000 people sitting there, are all changed on a grand level, but from a series of small human.
You know, I experienced it more and more. I'm fortunate enough to do foreign films with, and I experienced this more again and again. Than when we are on set. Israelis, Arab, Egyptian, Moroccan, we are friendly, we are friends, and it's always amazed me why in life it can't be so simple as it's in the theater or in the film.
It's the same in the audience. No matter who I'm sitting next to, I'm not asking about their politics. We just say like, can you believe that scene? It was amazing. We share tissues when we start to weep, and you know, all
so the problem is not the people. The problem is the politicians. That's all. Politics. Believe me.
I'm not going to argue with that.
And this show is
people could live together in peace. You know.
This show, I think, emphasized the art as a salvation because I think my character Tawfiq art is his salvation. And everyone, I think, your character when you say hear the concerto, and everyone through art gets some salvation to his spirit, to his troubles, to his misery in life.
Well, we have to wrap up, unfortunately, but we do have time for a couple of questions from our audience. I want to make sure we open up the floor to them. Let's start with this stranger over here.
Before this stranger speak, I would like to tell him, this is Ariel Stachel. He playing Khaled, and he won the Tony for. I think he deserves applause for that.
Absolutely.
Well, I just wanted to say I'm such a big fan of your show and you guys, and I've never seen it, but I can't wait to.
That actually might be true. You've never seen it from the audience, have you?
I've never seen it. But my question, because she asked me to ask a question, so I was thinking about what I wanted to ask. But my question is, on your 3 journeys as being an artist, I wonder if you've ever have had a tipping point where you felt like you were going to quit, and what changed, what happened, what helped you break through and keep pushing forward to the present moment?
Oh, I love that question.
That we wanted to quit in certain...
Quit show business.
Where you wanted to quit, where you felt like you were going to break, and then you pushed through as an artist, as an actor.
In general, I mean, not in the show.
Yeah, not quit the band's visit, but where you wanted to give up the artist life.
Yeah,
right.
Once a week. Like, all the time, but it's like what you were saying. Art is salvation, sort of, and I can't get away from it because it saves me every single time. You know, our lives as artists go up and down, and we don't do it for the money, obviously, because there's really no money in it for us. We do it because it's salvation, and it soothes our souls, and it saves us from the nonsense going on in the world. But yeah, I still think about quitting all the time because it's literally hard to keep my head above water. But things like the band's visit, for example, came at the perfect time for me, and it's exactly what I needed, and it's the greatest blessing. I mean, and I'm sure once I leave, whenever that is, like I'll be back in that dip and in that rut. But I guess I always like to think I have one foot out the door, but I think I'm just lying to myself probably because I think it's just what keeps me going and keeps me motivated, I guess. I don't know.
I think I had this experience early when I started to be an actor, and I was just graduated from university, and then I started to work in Jerusalem in the Khan Theater, and after the first performance that been offered to me, it was something that I didn't like. I didn't appreciate the material. And so I say, look, if this is the situation, I don't want to be in this profession, because I was very idealistic at the time. And then I didn't know. I don't know where did I find the nerve after, as a novice in theater, to say bye-bye to the theater. I'm not participating in your show because it doesn't interest me. But after half a year of staying at home, I've been offered again, luckily. And since then, I can't even think about the possibility that I would like to quit, or that I can see my life without theater, without film, without TV. Yeah.
Mine is a different story. I never thought about quitting music or anything, because I'm addicted to music since I was a kid. My father was a professor of Arabic music, and he was teaching schools and university, and he had his own shows on television in Israel. And I grew up. I was 5 years old. I sang my first song in his band.
Wow.
And then 9 years old, I already holding the violin. But you know what? One thing, he never wanted to teach me to play, because he thought, those days, to teach him is gonna distract his studying, whatever, schooling, Mm-hmm. So he didn't want me to be a musician. And my mother used to tell me, come on, he's talented, you have to. And then he gave me 2-3 lessons, and I continued by myself until I graduated high school, and I came to the United States. I graduated Queens College with the Bachelor of Music. Mm-hmm. And I did whatever I wanted to do.
And you became a huge star.
Yes, I continued by myself, and here I am. But I never thought about quitting, or music is in my veins.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love it. So we have time for one more question, but before we do that, Sasson, I got a tip from someone inside the Bands Visit family that I should ask you about something called late night Sasson. What is that?
Well, it's got to do with this gentleman that sits over there. I mean, the first 2 months when I arrived, I was by myself. My wife joined me later on, mm-hmm. And I was partying all night. I mean, I renovated my bachelor time, and I had very good help from my friends here, and I think people knew about me more about the Instagram and the stories of Late Night Sasson than from the show and from my 40 years of career.
So you're on Instagram?
Yes.
What's your Instagram?
I'm very passive. I'm very passive in Instagram, but from time to time I do it. But I have friends that used to be very.
Is that one of them?
Yeah, this one of them. This is one of them.
Any of the others of you on social media? Where can we follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Insta.
Brandon
Uran. Yeah.
Can we follow you on Instagram?
Yes, please. Sasson Gabay 24.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Even though Sasson is sitting next to us, it's really an honor from all my heart to be with him and with the other cast, to be with him on the stage. Really, I honor him.
Thank you, my friend.
A lot of respect for him. To me, he's a great actor.
Thank you.
Not because he's next to me.
I'm honored that you say so, and I'm really want to thank all the cast that after a year of work they accepted me so warmly, and I was fortunate enough to have a really wonderful actors with me, Katrina and Ariel. And Itai, and all the cast was so warm towards me, and I felt immediately at home. I was lucky because I knew the material before these guys started to work on them, but really they were so like a family, and I still feel like this, and I hope it will continue like this. Aww. Thank you, my friend.
Makes me want to move to Bet Hatikva, or
Go ahead.
at least to the Barrymore Theater. Yeah. Let's take one more question from the audience.
Hi.
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 I saw the show a couple of weeks ago, and all four of you were fantastic. I was just wondering, with The Band's Visit having premiered in a Broadway season where the other musicals were Frozen, Mean Girls, and SpongeBob, which are like all great in their own right, but do you think Broadway is headed in a direction where it's kind of accepting minimalism and simplicity in musicals?
I think what's strong about this musical is it's non-typical Broadway musical. I think in Broadway they are doing fantastic things. I mean, really amazing things. When I see it, I really don't believe my eyes that human being can do it. But here we have a story that remains with you, I think, with the audience way after you leave the house. Because when you see a Broadway musical, you are very entertained. And usually, I don't think all the time. Usually, it doesn't remain in your soul, in your heart. And here you have a story that you go with you even when after you leave the theater. And I think this is the strong point about The Band's Visit compared to the others.
I don't know that it's necessarily a question of minimalism versus spectacle, because I think there is a place for both on Broadway. I think we love to go see the big flashy musicals as much as we love to go see the small intimate ones. But I think it's more speaks more to Broadway moving in a direction of not underestimating its audience so much. It forces you to lean in and listen and think and fill in the holes. It doesn't spoon feed you the story. And I think that is what makes our shows so special and why people respond to it so much, is that Broadway audiences are super intelligent and super intellectual.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And it forces you to think, and it forces a mirror up and forces you to look at yourself. And I hope that's the direction that Broadway goes in, because I think you can still do that with a big spectacular musical. It's just a matter of getting the audience to listen and think for themselves. And I think a lot of shows of late have taken that for granted. I think.
And be an active audience. I mean, active, I mean, like, to see the show and to absorb it and to think about it and get it into yourself, opposed to just to see a wonderful number, you see.
I want to add more things about the show, and especially as a composer and a musician, David Yazbek, he did a genius thing with the music.
Yes.
You know, this is the first time that Broadway has, he did with the music, he mixed a little bit touch of the Middle East, the ethnic, and the Western music. He didn't go extreme to the Middle Eastern music, and he was very smart. So the American ear or Western ear could accept. So he did a mixture of Western and Eastern music. Very smart.
It's
very
totally, it's a perfect bridge, because I, as someone who grew up, my whole life in the United States and really loves pop music and traditional Broadway music, now I'm listening to Kulthum, and I never would have done that if David Yazbek hadn't created a score that mixed this thing I already knew and loved with this thing that was so new to me. So I can't recommend The Band's Visit more. It is truly incredible. It will move your soul and stay in your soul. It's been an honor to have the three of you here. I'm going to go buy more tickets to see The Band's Visit.
Please do.
Everyone else should too.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
gentlemen.
much. Thank you.